Would you rather own 100% of a little grape or 10 to 30% of a massive watermelon? Welcome to the Nine Doors Down Show, where we discuss anything and everything about commercial real estate and investing. Let's get it.
Nine Doors Down.
John Lopez.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Tony Rose.
Nine Doors Down.
Hi, this is Anthony Pimentel.
Educating, capital raising, networking.
Nine doors down. Nine doors down.
This is called a show!
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Nine Doors Down Show. This one is a special episode because it's one of those episodes where I met this individual at a real estate meetup. Then I started following him, and I began to realize this guy's into boxing. So it becomes even more fascinating. When I first met this guy, it was at a meetup in Milpitas with Josh Baldovino. It's a big Bay Area real estate player and also an influencer. And I just happened to be in the Bay Area, and a good friend of mine, Leo Guevara from Hospi Fund, invited me to come out to the meetup. And that was probably one of the first few meetups that I've been in the Bay Area, even though that is my hometown. So the gentleman that I'm speaking of goes by the name of Ian Cruz, managing partner of Elevate Capital. Ian is a CPA who is also a multifamily investor with a portfolio focused in Cincinnati, Ohio. Ian has a professional career in finance, previously working at PwC and in the venture capital industry for a decade. Ian hosts the Cincinnati Fractional Community of 150 plus members and organizes an annual investors field trip to explore the market. Ian has a wide range of experience in acquisitions, due diligence, underwriting, investor relations, and financial reporting. Ian also moonlights as a nonprofit boxing organization and coaches members to not only compete in the sport of boxing, but also live healthier and more active lives. His motto in boxing is each one, teach one, an approach that he carries towards financial literacy and real estate investing. For those listening at home, you may be washing the dishes or taking a shower, or if you're in the Bay Area, stuck on the 880 traffic, or here in Las Vegas, stuck on the 215. Let's welcome our very special guest, Mr. Ian Cruz.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you at that meetup, and love how you shouted out the boxing. Typically, these podcasts we only talk about real estate, and I love to follow you and see your passions in breakdancing as well, along with your kids.
I like your motto, each one, teach one. This is probably going back to like the early 2000s. I always had a motto that my dad kind of instilled in me is always be a student. Now that I've gotten older, I found myself learning more when I'm teaching the practice or the art or whatever it is, to the next generation. I'm actually learning actively while teaching. So big kudos to you, Ian. And meeting you at that meetup was, just being around the Bay Area movers and shakers. It was very special to me, because a lot of the meetups that I throw is, here in Vegas or even Southern California. But it was nice to kind of go back home and kind of go full circle and now being a part of a meetup that's about real estate.
Yeah.
Let's fire away, bro. The very first question was, what was life like for Ian Cruz prior to Elevate Capital?
Yeah. So my background is in accounting. So after college, I got my CPA license. I worked 2 years at a Big Four public accounting firm, and I spent the next decade of my career as a manager of finance at a venture capital firm. I think all the while that you're going through your career, I think everybody has their own personal finance journey and figuring out whatever they want to invest in. And real estate is this asset class that I had exposure to as a kid because of some decisions that my family made, for both good and for bad, honestly. So I think me being who I am, some of the mistakes kind of stuck out to me from 2008, and it got me down the rabbit hole of reading about real estate before I could take action, right? Because the Bay Area is an extremely expensive place to be buying a home. And I always had this idea that I wanted to house hack or own property here before I go off and start doing stuff out of state, right? So there was quite a journey where I was just focused on my career, and it's a good, fulfilling career. Accounting is definitely, I always tell people, like, if I was to take a personality test in college, accounting probably would have suited me then, right? It's kind of like I didn't really like talking to people. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to go to a meetup. I remember dreading those networking events that the Big Four used to put on during college. I was very introverted and just really wanted to stare at Excel all day, basically, right? But we all grow, right? We all change, whether it be into real estate or something else. There's always a yearning to grow in different ways and pick up new skills. I feel like I'm using a whole different side of my brain with real estate, right? And I think what attracted me to real estate, maybe, at the start, which was the underwriting and just kind of literally the spreadsheet, seeing if a deal is a good deal. That's not necessarily what keeps me in it. I think I've found a lot of growth in just executing a business plan, like actually networking with people. It's not just, does the spreadsheet make sense? It's, who do you know? Like, building your team, being able to actually figure out what to do when unexpected problems arise. It's not just going to be a black and white thing. So over time, there's just this personality change and this personal growth that leads you to want to take on the next challenge, right? And that led me to real estate. I think, like everybody, I started off with a house hack, and one thing leads to the next. Then I was also helping my mom with a 1031 exchange over in the Bay Area from a single family home to a 5-unit, which we added an ADU to, so that turned to 6 units. But that got me dabbling into the commercial multifamily space. And I just tell people I caught the bug. I mean, probably a lot of people who are listening to your podcast as it is, they've either caught the bug or starting to catch the bug, right? Because what may start as trying to subsidize the very high living cost, right? So my first home in the Bay Area was a condo, but it was right next to eBay. So I rented out a furnished room to somebody who just moved from New York to move there. And eventually it just turns into the next thing. That condo turns to a duplex. All of a sudden you become into midterm rentals. And then, helping my mom with a 1031 led to commercial, and then commercial led to larger apartment complexes. So one thing spirals into the next. And, here we are today.
It sounds like your actions have dictated your future, whether you planned it or not.
Yeah.
And that's something that I always tell a lot of people coming into it. Like, the problem with real estate, which is a good problem, is there's so many ways to make money. And a lot of times people have a hard time just getting started, right? Whether it's an ADU, whether it's a house hack, whether it's maybe a quadplex or whatever. So you're a mixture of like a bunch of asset classes in your portfolio currently. Is what it sounds like.
No, I focus on value add multifamily in Cincinnati, Ohio. I think life has taken me in different ways. And when I can speak to you at a meetup or speak to people and speak out into existence that I focus on Cincinnati, people make that association. So other things have come my way. So for example, I've done a subject to deal on a single family home. I've done an Airbnb, but really I've always let it be known that I am into commercial multifamily. My first deal in Cincinnati was a 6-unit, so I didn't even want to dabble in the smaller stuff to start. I think that as you network, there's enough stuff that comes your way, right? I was talking on our kind of accountability group yesterday, and somebody was talking about the deal, basically all the ADU plays that you can do, kind of the Thatch Nguyen kind of thought process. And I look at those numbers, I'm like, those are great, but I'm not pivoting from what I'm doing, right? Like
I call that the coastal elite plays of the ADU.
Yeah, they're great. And when I see that, I guess my takeaway is like, it's great to do one great project a year versus a bunch just accumulating transactions and doors. Maybe for me, I was hitting base hits and doubles. I wasn't hitting home runs on my first deals, but you were getting that experience in so many different ways. But now when I see some of the numbers on some deals, I'm like, wow, you can just sit it out and really look for great deals, not just constantly trying to do stuff to keep yourself busy, right? And some of those ADU plays are like that. I look at those numbers, I'm like, that's great. That's just not my
Yeah.
Welcome to the course on raising capital for investments. In this course, we'll cover the following topics. 1. Analyzing your investment strategy. Number 2. Discovering potential investors. 3. Crafting your pitch. 4. Securing your investment. 5. Our cheat code. We'll round out the program with our very own cheat code for getting in front of investors and being ready to pitch your investment opportunities. Take action today. Visit schoolofninedoorsdown.com and learn to attract capital.
When you focus on a certain buy box, I think it widens your pool of limited partners or passive investors because they know you for that one product.
Yep.
What you say is very fascinating, Ian. I think everybody, because myself, me and my wife, we started in the single family world back in 2009. Having long term single family rentals, right? But it took COVID for me to really start to see the light of commercial and actually leveraging debt. With your mom's 1031 exchange and getting to a smaller multifamily, what was an early red pill moment during that experience that really opened you up for, hey, you know what, this might be something I could do that stretches out to 20 units, 50, 150 units, 200 or more?
Yeah. So I had been talking, that was around the time that I joined SARE or Subtle Asian Real Estate. And I'd been talking with Tony Lin, who later became my mentor, and he helped walk the property. And I think you just learn, like I mentioned, when I started, this multifamily stuff looked like a math problem, and that was more attractive than looking at comps. With California, you have some offsetting effect of, the single family home is Prop 13, so the property taxes are low. But wow, when you get when you turn one unit that's getting 4,500 a month to 6 units that are getting 15K a month, right? That's going to more than offset the difference in property taxes. So seeing how those numbers run, it really started to get me to understand how scaling into larger properties, it just makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I think I was kind of wired to that being an accountant, right? You see that pretty quickly.
I guess coming from an accounting background, you're automatically thinking conservatively.
Yeah.
I think, right, for whether it's a business opportunity or maybe you're managing the profits and losses, within that organization. With commercial real estate, how has your experience as being in accounting and underwriting, how has it actually helped you raise capital? Because I actually interviewed a guy a couple of weeks ago. He didn't want a single part of investor relations. He didn't want to talk to people. He was in the spreadsheets, very good at it. And then he started realizing that, dude, I'm the best capital raiser because I know the story of this deal.
Yeah.
How's it helped you?
I think there's a natural synergy. And then, like I mentioned, just which has allowed me to grow into something else and put on those other hats that maybe he didn't want to raise capital. And same with myself. I didn't get into this thinking that I would be bringing 23 investors to Cincinnati. I just came back from a field trip, right? I planned all of that. I didn't think of myself as somebody who would coordinate an event like that. But one of the things that I did, like I shared, my motto is each one, teach one. I still do. I host a lot of calls. And anytime we found a property, we would underwrite these properties together. And I think that those calls, it's both underwriting, right? Kind of showing what my core competency going into this. Now I feel like underwriting is, it's something that I do, but at the time, that's kind of what I had to bring to the table. And then it brings in showing people underneath the hood, like the way that I look at deals, especially during a time, as you know, in 2023, where it's tough for deals to get done, right? So the deals that we did were the result of other people backing out because our normal offers were just too low, right? So it was really, really tough, but it was keeping people warm and getting, building trust when they see how you underwrite these deals. So over time, you learn a lot, and I've been fortunate. It's not just like, oh, I'm an accountant. I've also been having that collaborative mindset. I've been mentored and shared knowledge with a lot of people that do this all the time, so we know what to look at. I think where I become unique is that I focus on one market so much that some of the norms is not like, oh, you underwrite deals, you look at a lot of spreadsheets, but you do them all in Dallas. You wouldn't know that insurance costs 500 a door in Cincinnati versus 800 to 1300 in Dallas versus who knows what in Florida, just because you know numbers, right? You actually need the repetition.
If you can get insurance.
Yeah, right. Right. And you actually need the repetitions of doing it. And then you need to make these calls and talk to these people, right? To see how you need to be plugged into the market to see how the landscape is changing, right? So yeah, I think my background is one thing, but staring at a spreadsheet is only as good as the data that you're given. I mean, it's only one thing. You actually gotta own some properties, you gotta have some real track record where you have some variance analyses rather than looking at a bunch of broker OMs. You need better data than that to get started. And then having those calls, it does build trust, right? And it does get people to know you as the person who knows everything about the market. Like, honestly, I wouldn't even try to underwrite a deal in a market that I know nothing about, despite me being a CPA or knowing numbers. Like, I know numbers, but I know numbers in one market.
Yeah. Before the call, I was, mentioning my friend who, originally from Canada, but loves investing in Ohio and Cincinnati as well. And as far as the Canadians, a lot of the people from Toronto, they like the Indianapolis and Ohio markets, right? Now, for you, what was it about Cincinnati that drew you to that market, and how long ago was this?
Yeah. Have you heard the story before?
Dude, nope. This will be my first time, man. So please share with our listeners.
Yeah. So this is completely out of real estate. I think when we talk, I've grown in love with Cincinnati. There's a number of reasons why it's a fundamentally strong market, both in terms of cash flow and appreciation. It has a number of Fortune 500 companies. The median rent is 5 times the median income, so it's affordable, and it's not booming in terms of supply, similar to Dallas and the Sun Belt, right? There's 4,500 new deliveries expected. So for the last year, Cincinnati actually was number one in rent growth in 2023, and it's projected by CBRE in the period between 2023 and 2025 to be in the top 3. So number of fundamental reasons. I think when things are kind of more slow but steady, it makes underwriting more easy to map out, right? I don't need, that reversion cap rate assumption in your underwriting model is it's pretty stable. It's not like we're always compressing that number there. The reason personally for me is because I know the market, right? People debate between the 3 C's of Ohio. I'd be happy to talk about the differences between them. I think you can make money in all 3 markets, but a big determining factor for me is where I want to go all in and where I actually want to be flying to this market, going to this market frequently, building a team there. With me hosting the field trip there, I mean, I'm not, I don't want to sound, well, people, I've built such a community there that people know me in Cincinnati, right? And it's really just about where you can execute and where you can build your team. And I say that people want to find a place to invest in where there's a direct fight. That's kind of one of the benchmarks that some people have. Another thing that I have is just going to a place that you don't feel miserable going, right? It's not like, because maybe year one, it's like, oh, real estate's so exciting. Yeah, I'm going to go to the middle of nowhere to do this deal. But by year 5, your life has changed. Maybe you have kids at this point. You have to leave family. This becomes a sacrifice. You have to fly to the middle of nowhere where there are no good food options, right? And you got to be going there 3 or 4 times, or 10 times a year, right? You're going to burn out really quickly. So I saw that long-term vision from the start. So the funny story with me in Cincinnati is that I've been a diehard Bengals fan since 2003.
Oh, snaps, dude.
Right.
Faced the 49ers twice in Super Bowls.
Yeah. Joe Montana was killing us, man. I started a fan club that actually got posted by Bengals.com over in the Bay Area for Bengals fans. And I started meeting all these people from Cincinnati that moved here for tech jobs, right? Like I've had one of them invest in a few of my deals, actually. He works for Apple. He grew up in Cincinnati. He moved over here. So I have that connection. Even one of our property managers, I have referrals that are real estate referrals, but I also have personal referrals to them because it's not a small city, but it's small-ish, right? Like the degrees of connection, like it's very easy to get to know people in Ohio, right? So having that little bit of a competitive advantage, and then also knowing that if I'm going to bust my butt Monday through Saturday, I can also time this to go to a game on Sunday.
I knew you were about to say that.
I mean, it makes
That's awesome.
like enjoy going there more, right?
Yeah.
If you're checking properties for Monday through Saturday, I mean, we're still doing stuff on Saturday. Knowing that your day off on Sunday, I get to go to a game and I have friends there. And it's a really cool city. I can highlight the city in a way that's not just numbers and metrics and returns. I think I do a pretty good job of selling people on the city when I take them there. We do a lot of things to have fun. So I think that that's part of this that a lot of people don't think about when they just get into analysis paralysis thinking about I think Indianapolis is a great market, by the way. So it's like Indianapolis, Ohio, like what is the perfect market? And I would rather be able to find a relative deal, find delta in Cincinnati, which I think is a great market already, versus find a shitty deal in Columbus and try to ride the wave of appreciation there, right? So.
Right. Yeah, you don't reinvent the wheel. And I think what's cool about your story of Cincy is you found things that are enjoyable in Cincinnati. People got attracted to it. They're joining Cincinnati Fractional Community. They're hopping on the Zooms with you, and you're telling the story of the whole market through kind of your lens of enjoyment on top of all the the underwriting and stuff. Now, the members that are in the group, are they primarily Californians that's in CFC, or do you also have like other members outside of California?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of networking to build like a group of investors that focus on Cincinnati. I'll before I get to answer that question, I'll just kind of share the rationale behind that. I think some people think when there's a deal, they want to be the only one that sees the deal. They don't trade notes. They kind of just think, that's it right there. But something that I've tried to do is collectively to put together a footprint because there is strength in numbers as we go to Cincinnati. Maybe we may compete on a deal once in a while, but overall we're going to be calling each other afterwards, trading notes, and working together. And it gives other people within our team in Cincinnati a little bit more reputational risk working with, it's not like you're dealing with Joe Schmo with their duplex that you'll never have to see again. It's kind of like if you give a bad service to somebody within our community, then that kind of spreads. Or if you do something that that you shouldn't be doing, right? So then you'd lose a lot more business than just losing your single family home, right? So that's part of the community that I've tried to foster. When I say Cincinnati Fractional Community, I'll share a few things. Like I know a lot of people, I've pretty much done a ton of networking to know who's been investing in Cincinnati. I am the host of the Cincinnati Fractional Community, and Fractional, for those of you that don't know, is a startup that's trying to tackle the co-ownership space of owning real estate. They handle all the back office stuff. They create your operating agreements. They do your bookkeeping, your K1s, all that kind of stuff. What differentiates Fractional from other prop tech startups that are trying to allow people to co-own real estate is that they encourage the most active form of joint ventures and partnerships, right? And that's for better or worse, because partnerships can go sour, right? There's some prop tech startups that are like, hey, you can buy like a share of a property and be completely passive, and here's your exposure to real estate. Fractional is like, hey, we're actually going to put you in weekly Zooms to get to know people and pair you and like partner where you really have to do the work together, right? So Fractional is given a lot of resources. They allow me to host events, and we have calls, and there's a whole group of members. And within the Fractional community, since it is a nationwide, right, there are people all over the place, is the truth. I think naturally, like for example, our field trip, 23 people, most of them were from NorCal. One was from SoCal, one was from Seattle, one was from San Diego. The rest were all Bay Area, NorCal, right?
Yeah.
Naturally, there are a lot of California investors investing in Cincinnati.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that, man. So tell us about your first multifamily deal in Cincinnati. How did it fall in your laps, and how did you find the team to take it down?
Yeah. So the realtor that I used was Joe Cornwell, who is one of the hosts of the Best Ever podcast. It was before he became the host. He had posted some great stuff on Bigger Pockets, and I found him through there and connected with him. I had met him in person. He is one of these guys that does everything. He's an investor. He has his realtor license. He has a construction company. So the day that I met him was actually over on a triplex that he was doing a burr on. And my wife and I visited him while he was like doing the work. Like he's he really does everything. And I met him, got his contact information, and kind of, it's a touch point, right? It's not like if you're not doing anything and then you find the property that you want and you don't have a team, like good luck. You should be scrambling at that point. So that was kind of a touch point there. Later down the road, I had been looking at a number of properties, and we came across this 6-unit over in a part of Cincinnati that I really like. It met all of our metrics and our numbers. It was a 6-unit with 5 2-bedrooms, which I love. I love buildings to have more 2 bedrooms than 1-bedroom units. The 1-bedroom unit on that building is less sticky. People come and go, a year or two, and the 2 bedrooms, people just stay, right? So we found it. It went under contract immediately, but the buyer walked away, or they had just never sent in their EMD. And that was where I told Joe to kind of just stay in touch, be ready. And if anything happens, we'll submit an offer. And it was a little bit below asking. So the list price was $400K. We got it at $375K. Completely after the fact. I do know that one of my friends, who actually goes to my boxing gym, who owns a 13-unit like right down the street, he was willing to offer $425 for it, but he missed it the first time somebody else got it under contract. That slipped through. We just kind of slipped through the cracks and got it right afterwards, because when somebody backs out, people can panic. The seller was a dentist from Las Vegas, actually. Probably she had a hard time with property management. So a lot of these stories are the same. I can tell you all the owners that we buy from, they're out-of-state landlords that find the property management the most difficult piece of owning real estate, out-of-state property management, right? And I go into Ohio knowing that this is the most difficult. This is the problem to solve. If you can solve this problem, that's how you're going to be successful, right? But every buyer, there was another person from New Jersey who struggled with 3 different property managers. There was her who struggled with a particular property manager. She was done with it. And then we slid through at just the right time. It's a little bit of luck, right? And then we're able to get our offer accepted.
Nice, man. So are you identifying any deals out there right now currently?
Yeah, We're under contract for a 35 unit right now, actually. And that's over in Dayton, Ohio. So Dayton is a little bit different. So actually, Joshua's hosting a meetup today. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't. I do see his activity on social media a lot.
So he's having like a Shark Tank like activity where
I did see that. Okay, I did see that.
I'm actually pitching this deal there, but it's not
Nice.
like we're raising capital for it. So I'll give you since you can't attend, I guess I'll give you
Please.
This is a deal that has a lot of it's going to be all about the operations. We're going to get in there. We're going to turn, 31 out of the 35 units have been turned. And the previous owner, again, from Koreatown, from LA, older gentleman who bought this at, I want to say 1.3 million. And he actually had a big thing with the sewer and the plumbing. He had to put $350K into the building because of some unexpected expenses, trees that pull out, concrete that he had to, all that kind of stuff, right?
He just didn't, nobody could really forecast that.
Yeah, exactly. So he won it out. He put it on the market. He had a buyer. So again, a similar story. We were not the first people to get this. Then the buyer actually backed out because of Federal Pacific panels. And if you know anything about, I'll give a background on Federal Pacific panels. Those are electrical panels from the 60s that are a fire hazard. But I personally, I'm not scared of those. If you see knob and tube wiring, though, that's a little bit worse. That's a bigger project to kind of remediate, right? Or to rewire a building. But actually, my 6 unit, there were Federal Pacific panels, and all we did was replace them, right? So it's not the end of the world, but that buyer.
So these are properties dated before 1950, then, 1920s to 1960s, around there.
The panels are like 1960.
Okay.
So yeah, I bought stuff. I don't like buying older than 1950 at this point. I've done it. I don't. 1940 is when. 1940 and earlier is when you get the knob and tube stuff.
Yeah, the knob and tube, man.
I rewired a building for that, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it. But getting back to where I was, it's not the end of the world, right? You ask for seller credit, you go ahead, you address it. So we were able to get an attractive price, which is great. And we did get it at lower than the current tax base. So in Ohio, what a lot of people do is they do entity transfers to kind of keep property taxes low. So essentially what that is you're buying the LLC that owns the property rather than the property itself. So when you go on the assessor's website, you see a big fat zero on the entity transfer. There are cases on this that went to the Ohio Supreme Court, and then subsequent anti-solicitation laws that Governor DeWine put into place to kind of protect, he's a Republican, right? So protect people from being able to, protect people to be able to do those entity transfers, or really prevent school boards from trying to uncover that price and bring up taxes on investors. But we're in a case where we're actually buying at such a good price that we want to announce our price, right? We're going to have to contest later. We actually got this at less than what you're taxing us at, right? So we do think get those numbers low. We do think that we're acquiring this at an attractive base.
Yeah.
Another thing that's attractive about this deal is that the property manager is actually putting significant equity into this deal. So when you go into a Class C in Dayton cash flow market, it's really just about the property management. It's really about the operations and being able to get things up to market rent. Rents are about $150 to $200 below the market rents on this property. And then if we actually go the Section 8 route, it's significant. It's even more than that. So we have the Section 8 standards as well. And RPM, first of all, is putting, out of a $600K equity cash need, he's putting in $200K himself, which is there's a lot of skin in the game when a PM wants to do that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
He owns real estate. He manages about 700 doors, and he actually owns gas stations nearby. So he's an experienced investor as well. And about a third of his existing portfolio is Section 8 already. So if we do want to go Section 8, there's that play as well. Then the final piece I find attractive about the play is that there is room in the basement to convert another unit. So turn 35 to 36 units. And this is also something that is up that property manager's wheelhouse. They are doing it right now on a project that we walked, not during this year's field trip, but last year's field trip. So they're in the midst of that. And they've done a big conversion of like a warehouse to a school. It was posted on the Burr Invest group, and it was on a very tight time crunch, and they made a very significant profit on that deal. So I know that they're experienced in these types of conversions and adding a unit and that kind of stuff. So if you have the right team in place, you acquire at the right price, we're in.
Hey, you could get creative. Is this more of a joint venture, or are you syndicating this deal?
No, this is a joint venture. So this is going to be unique for the presentation because I'm really not going to be there trying to raise capital. I'm really looking for a strategic partner, probably just one who, I mean, it's not just ideally, like realistically, I have to know them already. And I go to all those meetups, so I already know who's in the room. But it's just going to be finding probably one investor that's in line with us to want to be a part of what we do. So it's not just raising capital, it's raising human capital too. It's getting that additional skill set and additional eyes on this deal.
That's a smart play, man. And what I like what you're doing is you're closing the proximity. Like you have the property manager putting equity down on it. And now you're just looking for that extra set of eyes. Ian, I think you're going to land somebody in the first like 10, 15 minutes before you go on and present. Let's touch on your boxing and real estate.
Yeah.
How it kind of intermingles. I'm not a boxer myself, right? But I do know that, hey, there's defense and offense when it comes to boxing. And if you have right defense, now you're talking about counterpunching. What are some of the similarities you see in real estate that requires offense and defense and then, I guess, counterpunching?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, yeah, you got me a little stumped here.
Or let's rephrase this, maybe acquisitions when you're underwriting deals, that's a form of offense, right? And then defense is, I guess, having your, whether it's an SEC attorney or property management. I'm kind of thinking along those lines, I guess.
I think they're different, if you think about boxers, you have different styles of boxers, right? You got Floyd, who can counter. You've got Manny Pacquiao, probably our favorite, who's kind of an aggressive offensive fighter, but who can also counter, right? There's probably different times to put your foot on the gas and be on offense in different market cycles, right? I think last year was a year to be trying to not make a mistake, kind of watch where things go. So it is, people think offense and defense, but they really flow together, right? So you're cautiously offensive, right? But you're ready, you want to be protected from any of this downside. You want to be protected from some of the risks in terms of investing. And this could be actively or passively. It's just, looking at any of these things that could be around the corner, right? Making sure you have the right team in place, the right debt in place, and the right property, right? Different properties are going to be less attractive. Like, for example, they think that if we're heading into a recession, some of the Class C's, you may not want to be. It's kind of more of a falling knife, right? The A's and B's had their discounts, and then some of the Class C's, you want to make sure if you are investing in them, that you have the right team and the right operations, and that you're acquiring it at the right basis, right? But yeah, maybe 2020 and 2021, some people were all out on offense, right?
Yeah, right. Good way to look at it. And I had to ask that question, man, because growing up as a baseball player, I automatically have a mentality where, like, if I fail 70% of the time, I'm winning. And so I look at the L's that I take, being an entrepreneur, you're gonna have those L's, and they're not necessarily losses. They're more like lessons to just make you a stronger person and investor later down the road. So I'm glad I was able to ask this question on correlating sports and real estate. But what is next, man, for yourself and Elevate Capital? What do you see for yourself in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, we continue to underwrite and look at multifamily deals. Right now, we are partnered with Slocum Reed of the Best Ever Network. He owns Three Little Pigs Property Management, and he's been a great partner for us to get our operations in line. And he's on the ownership side of our most recent deal. So as we look at deals where personally I'm looking at the sub-institutional space, maybe 5 to 20 million or less than 80 units. A lot of people, like a lot of syndicators, look into the large multifamily space where you have on-site property management, and then this, let's say you find a 40 or a 50 unit. Those are notoriously hard to manage, and I think that that's a problem that we're running straight towards, right? Because I think we have the answer, right? Because that's where you'll find some opportunities. That's where you'll find some outsized returns, in my opinion, if you can find the mom and pop property manager that, the property's been passed along through generations. They don't want to manage it anymore, things like that. Or the out-of-state, the out-of-state owner that's a struggle with property management. I think we have the answer to that. So for now, we're trying to scale our portfolio in that under 80 unit space and see where it goes from there.
And I think the direction you're going, because if it's like 80 and under, especially in a market like Cincy, you could have more meat in the bone as a JV instead of a syndication.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you nail it right on the head, man. Like a lot of people, especially when they come out of these masterminds, everyone thinks 100 units or more. Which I mean, absolutely, it's great, but there is that sweet spot that you did mention, that 20 to like 80 unit, where it's too small for large institutional investors, but also too big for those that are just getting into it. So I think what you're doing is a fascinating thing, man. You're seeing a buy box for yourself where you can make an impact and
Mm-hmm.
bring others along with you without having all the headaches of an SEC attorney, doing a 506B or a C raise.
Yep. Yep.
Man, I love it, man. So as we wind things down, I just want to ask a few more questions, like, kind of for our listeners to get to know the not so suited and booted version of Ian. I guess the first question I have is, and you probably heard this on several podcasts, but what is Ian's superpower?
So there are four roles that people talk about with real estate, right? It's the money, the hammer. Man, I better not blank. The hammer, the brain, and what's the last one?
Ooh, I forget.
So, I mean, in short, it's raising capital, it's asset management, investor relations, and underwriting, right? I think the superpower I came into real estate with was the brain or the underwriting. Lately, it has been a lot of raising capital or the money, and they like you've mentioned, they do go hand in hand. I think one point that I'm working on is the hammer. Oh, there's also the acquisitions, and then there's the asset management, right? So yeah, those I'd say the two that I lean towards the most are the underwriting and the capital raising.
Would you have laughed at yourself 5 years ago if you told yourself that you're going to be an effective capital raiser?
For sure.
The evolution of real estate. I love it because you eventually, I think you do have to specialize in one thing just to, get in it, right? But eventually if you're always learning, you're going to start learning different segments of the business to make sure everything's all viable. So I'm excited for what the future holds, man. I know I'll definitely, be following you and just seeing every step, whether it's the Icky Wood shuffle dance or taking down the 80 unit,
Yeah.
I love it, man. All right. So two more questions. This next one, Ian, I always preface it as, it's probably the most difficult question that an investor could ever answer. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
All right. You're stuck on an island Not a single soul around, no investors, no family, no friends. There's no internet. There's no, no phone calls, no text. However, you can bring your phone and you could load up an MP3 of either your favorite musical artist or favorite musical album. If you had to choose, what is that musical artist or album that you can listen to on repeat 24/7 until you get rescued?
Yeah,
Told you it's difficult.
I know. Gotta listen to your podcast the whole time, man. I'm just kidding. I mean, I guess Eminem's coming to mind.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the second time someone has mentioned Eminem.
Yeah.
The first one was an SEC attorney based out in Florida.
Really? Nice.
Yeah. And I always remember Eminem, man, because before he blew up with Hi, my name is I always remember him from the Wake Up Show. This is probably like 96, 97, and he had this single, and I remember I had a 12-inch single I bought at Rasputin's. It was what was it called? I Just Don't Give a F.
Yeah.
I woke up in the morning grabbing my thoughts like something like Tupac. I just don't give an F. And that's a great choice, man. Eminem's is a great lyricist, man. A great storyteller.
Yep. Probably, yeah. Probably listen to Not Afraid while I'm out there. So
There you go. Love it. All right. Last one is would you consider yourself for vacations more of a tropical person or mountainous region? And whatever the scenario is, what is your next ideal vacation?
good question. That changes, right? I feel throughout time. Something random about me is I used to run ultra marathons, marathons and ultra marathons, and I used to love the trails. I think right now, with how hard I've been going on real estate, I think the beach sounds nice. So different stages of life, even the way that we used to travel, right? Like in my 20s, I feel like I was everywhere. And now I just want to do something a little bit more relaxing, right? So maybe a few years ago it was the mountainous one, and now it's more tropical.
Okay. And what is that one tropical destination where you want to visit?
I mean, the Philippines.
Great choice, man. So many.
I mean, in terms of where I'm actually going, we're going to Tulum for a Sarah Dynasty retreat, which should be cool. But the Philippines is far, but going to Coron or Palawan.
Yep.
I've been to Boracay a handful of times, and can never go wrong.
You can't, man. That's actually something that's me and my family's radar in the next like 6 months. Like me personally, I've only visited the Philippines once, and that's when I was 7 years old, man.
Where do you go?
So, well, my family's from Cebu, and also
Okay.
my mom is from Negros Occidental, but
Yeah.
my wife's family is heavy in Manila.
Okay.
So this time around, it'll probably be heavier on the Manila side, and maybe take a few days, to go down the Visayas. But yeah, that's definitely next on our radar.
So, I mean, there's so much to explore. I've been to Manila like a handful of times. I love it to see family. I don't love necessarily being there for too long with all the traffic and stuff. I do want to get out and go to, an island. Palawan is beautiful. I've been to Boracay. It's, President was calling it a cesspool for a while, but I hear
Yeah, I remember that.
enough, right? So yeah, I got some family out there as well. And it's been a while since I've gone. So, thanks for reminding me. The sand in Boracay is like next level. One day.
Yeah. You're gonna love Mexico too, man. I've always had fond vacations out there. But Ian, man, how can our listeners get a hold of you, learn about your investment opportunities, and whether social media, website, email, platform is yours, man. Please share.
Yeah, so our website is elevate with an 8, elevatecapital.co. It links out to everything else. I do love connecting with people on LinkedIn, and that's with my name, Ian Cruz, I'm a CPA. And my Instagram is Cincy Cashflow. Cincy with a Y. Some people type it, there's a debate about CINCI versus CINCY. So it's with a Y, Cincy Cashflow.
Awesome. And then how can people learn in the Bay Area? How can they learn about maybe taking classes under you for boxing?
Yeah, so I coach at Dreamland Boxing, which is a nonprofit over in San Jose. It's like in West San Jose. Go ahead and look us up at dreamlandboxing.org. There is a wait list for memberships right now, but please send an email, get on that wait list, and I'd love to coach you. I coach the amateur team, and I also coach general classes at 5 p.m. on Fridays.
When I see you now and hear more of your story, I can't help but think giver's gain. Like you're giving so much to the community where you're growing so much, Ian, and your story is very, very impressive and very inspiring, man. So thank you again for taking the time to just hop on the Nine Doors Down show. For all our listeners at home, please like, share, follow the Nine Doors Down show. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn, and pretty much all your favorite podcast platforms. But on that note, this concludes another edition. Everyone, we out. Peace.